there
Oh,
it is.
you look great.
Well, we kind of lined that up good.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Chasen. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great episode. And it's actually really anticipated by a lot of our listeners to have you on the show. And a lot of people miss the party. So this is going to be good. All right. So starting off, this is mostly Built Nostalgia is mostly a podcast that kind of focuses on things that happened in the 90s and what everyone's doing now. So I wanted to start talking about the debut self-titled album and then In the Meantime, In Between Time. Those were my favorites as a teen, and I played them quite heavily. So what was your personal favorite of all of the party albums?
Oh, wow. I would have to go with Free.
Yeah.
And then the last album that didn't really get any play. Free, because they finally started taking us seriously for writing our own songs and like having more creative input.
Mm-hmm.
When they first put us out, they really, they have a guy for everything. Hey, we're gonna write songs. You're gonna be this guy. You're gonna be that guy. A lot of times Albert would get all the cool songs. We'd be like, bro, I can rap too, And it's like, no, the black guy's gonna rap, Damon's gonna do this, he's gonna do this, and you are gonna sing. You have crazy hair, so you're gonna sing rock and roll. I'm like, oh, okay. meanwhile, I'm listening to Jodeci and everything else under the sun back then, like anybody else. But I did get into Pearl Jam and the the '90s kind of Seattle sound and all that. So it did. I love music all around, but I do love Free because they did let us work with who we wanted to, and we had good relationships at that point with like the president of Hollywood Records. We'd come into the office and they'd be like, okay, boys, what do you guys want to do? And we'd be like, we want to work with Dr. Dre. Actually, I think we said, we want to work with NWA. He said, who do you want to work with? And we said, NWA. And he's like, and we were being facetious. Obviously, we're from Disney, it's like NWA. But he's like, okay, hold on one second. And he like puts his phone down, and does like the old school, like, conference call. And it's all of a sudden it's Easy E on the phone. Yo, what's up? It's Easy. and the president of our record is like, yeah, I got the party sitting in here. They want to work. They wanted to, they were talking about you guys, and we would like to have you guys produce a song. He's like, oh, okay, man, I'll turn you on to Dre. I'll turn you on to Suge. And all of a sudden we're in Suge's hand, and Suge's picking us up, rolling us around, and we're working with Dre. But that was like the priceless education within the party that we got. We might not have gotten monetarily rich or anything, but the educational aspect of being able to go down to Virginia Beach and work with Teddy Riley, or and just sit there behind Dr. Dre and just watch him work. And when he came up in the Super Bowl, just recently, and he's behind that board, that is truly how you see Dr. Dre. Like anytime we were with him, he was behind the board. I mean, the guy didn't even get up to go to the bathroom. There's 100 other guys in the room moving around, doing stuff, making sure you had something to drink, or talking, or, or rapping off the cuff. Snoop would come in and out back then before he was even Snoop, before he was like launched. The DOC was in there, but Dre never moved. He was always a workhorse. And it's something that I think imprinted on us as kids too, like watching, okay, this guy's for real. It's not just, some guy that's talked up. This guy's really doing the work. I mean, he was really, and Teddy Riley too. It was interesting to watch these legends, in their environment at work like that. So I really loved Free. And then the last album, The Party's Over, Thanks for Coming, was the same situation. We got to like, even more so, they trusted us even more so, because at that point they already knew we were going to end it. We were already talking about we were just going to split up. And because we had asked for a band, we said, we want to go on tour with a band. We want to go on tour and do all these things. And they were like, guys, pop music is really not happening right now. That was when Pearl Jam and everything was really hitting hard.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, okay, I guess it's over, not realizing that it all goes full circle, and we should have just waited it out a little bit. But the guy wasn't going to stifle us from having careers. So You know, we split it up. But the last album, he was like, okay, I'll give you guys each a budget, and you guys can do whatever song you want, and that'll be kind of like my gift to you guys, my going away gift. So they gave
Oh,
us a budget, and I went and did Moving On, and everybody kind of did different things and kind of experimented in genres that they might not have done before. Like Dee Dee did this song called Yellow Butterfly, which is one of my favorite songs I've ever heard. It was with like I can't remember the name of the band that did it with her. I want to say the Soul Sonics, but that might not be right. Jazz band, but like flutes and like just really
mm,
pretty, really cool stuff that we weren't normally getting, you know, on an everyday basis. It was something that, you know, really kind of showed our individual personalities. And even Tiffini too, you know, Tiffini was writing on that stuff. She did a song
mhm.
called Sorry, which was great.
Wow. Yeah, no, I think that it's important that people know more about that album. We'll play some clips from it on the show too, just so people can get a taste if they haven't
Sweet.
heard it already. Yeah. Why do you think, going back a little bit, that In My Dreams, the single did so well? And did you anticipate that would happen with a cover and remix album?
No, I mean, we weren't listening to, I mean, I was into rock, but I wasn't into I wasn't into Dokken, so to speak. And no slam at
Yeah.
Dokken, because later on became educated on all this stuff, but
Yeah.
and even met those guys. But no, that was the brilliance of the producer, Julian Raymond, who was kind of the in-house producer for Hollywood Records. He did a lot of my tunes. He did Rodeo. He did Boyfriend. He did Peace, Love, and Understanding for us.
Mm,
Um, but he was kind of like the rock and roll guy, and I think that was kind of his. I'm sure he got bored doing all these real poppy songs, so he was always trying to insert things like that in there. And
mm,
I think that was his idea. And also Peter Paterno, who was the label president at that point, he was a big rock guy too. Like he was the guy that purchased Queen's catalog before, when Hollywood Records first started, they purchased the Queen catalog, so they owned Queen, and then they signed us. So that was kind of like the order of people
yeah.
that came onto that label. We were the first signed band on Hollywood Records, but Queen was already purchased and bought. So the label was kind of built upon, having this insane catalog. And that was before Freddie Mercury died,
Hmm.
and also pre Wayne's World, which Wayne's World kind of put them back on the map for our generation. But yeah, just it was a crazy time for sure. But yeah, in my dreams, I didn't know if it would. I don't really know how I felt about it. I mean, we
Yeah.
thought we had cooler songs at that point we were working on. But now I realize, I look back and I realize the brilliance of it. Doing a song like that, especially when you hear, Dokken's voice, when you hear his voice in comparison to what Dee Dee ends up doing. Um, and I've seen John Lynch at NAMM shows and talked with him about it. He's like, dude, I'm like, you might not know who I am, but we covered your song. And he's like, of course I know who you are, man. You're on my fireplace. He's like, I got your version. He actually said, I think your version charted higher than ours.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, oh, that's really cool, man. Freaking rock god, but
Yeah.
it was super cool. And I think we got the thing is, we didn't get a lot of respect. Nobody cared. People don't like to hear this, but people don't really care. People didn't really care about the Mickey Mouse Club when Mickey Mouse Club was over.
Mm,
So the Mickey Mouse Club, if you watched the Mickey Mouse Club, then you were extremely lucky kid, because most people weren't able to watch the Mickey Mouse Club. And a lot of people don't realize that. So when we went to
mm.
Hollywood and got agents and all this stuff, and we're like, hey, we're on the Mickey Mouse Club, they're like, what the hell's that? I don't care. Take that off your resume. Like, a lot of them made us take it off our
Wow.
resume. It was not a talking point. It was not respected. They do that a lot of times with soap operas too, for whatever reason, which is
Oh,
sad,
okay.
because soap operas are incredibly hard work, but for whatever reason, it doesn't carry the same value with an agency or with production.
Mm,
And Mickey Mouse Club kind of ran that way, almost like a soap opera in a way, because it was every day, and it was, you know, that kind of mad pace. But in that sense, it should have gotten way more respect just for that aspect. We were doing choreography, we were doing musical numbers, every day. How do you remember all this stuff? These kids are crazy. I mean, it became infamous by the amount of people that broke out of that show. So as
mhm.
people continued to move to Hollywood and continued to impress people and be like, where the hell did you come from? Well, I was on the show called the Mickey Mouse Club. No way, I heard that from this other guy that's super talented. And it just kept happening. And now you got not just stars, but you got, superstars that have come out of
Hmm.
that show with not only the NSYNC thing, but Britney and
Hmm.
Christina and Ryan and Carrie Russell when she was doing Felicity and a number of others, Americans, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much talent that's still untapped uh, through all those kids, but a lot of people just didn't care. So when we were on the radio, when we came out, going, hey, you didn't say we were on the Mickey Mouse Club, you didn't say we were from Disney, because at that point Disney didn't have a reputation for creating pop stars like they do now.
Mm-hmm.
We were on the beginning of that. Now they have, the Miley Cyruses, the Demi Lovato's, the Olivia Rodrigo's, all these people that have popped out of this machine. So when you came into a radio station and said you were from Disney, they were like, they didn't care. They were like, no
Unbelievable.
way. So Summer Vacation came out on a black label. I mean a black label like as black as this notebook. Like
Hmm.
it was just it was black and it had Summer Vacation across it. That's what went to the radio station. They had different mixes. It didn't say
Really?
nothing else. And that's how we started getting played. And then, and then skip forward to Dokken, albums later. Uh, DJs know Dokken. DJs know that history. They're at that age where they probably listen to Dokken. So they might even be stuck there playing pop music, going like, "Oh, I can't believe I have this stupid job. I want to be doing the rock channel," and then going, "Oh, these guys covered Dokken. No way. That's cool. Let me hear what the hell this is about." And then just
Hmm.
being pleasantly surprised with how kind of fun it was. I think that had a lot to do with the history of that, the success of that. That was a brilliant move in that aspect. No one was really doing covers like that. It was just almost, they're doing them a lot now. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
There's a lot of things you'll hear on TikTok, and you'll hear things where you hear a song you recognize, but it's completely reimagined.
Yeah.
It's completely different. Uh, I just don't remember them doing a lot of that back then. And of course, nobody knew Dokken. None of our fans knew what Dokken was. They thought that was a new song. They thought that was just some cool song that came out.
I didn't even know about Dokken until like maybe 5 years ago.
Well, there you go.
You
There
know?
you go. Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
you were a horror fan, like any Nightmare on Elm Street fan would have known it,
Mm.
because I think they did a cover song, or they did a big soundtrack on one of those movies back when Nightmare on Elm Street was at its height.
Yeah, I didn't even know In My Dreams was a cover. Like, I didn't even know. Your version was the first one I heard. And then later on, I hear In My Dreams come on by a rock band on the radio. And I'm like, what?
Yep. And then people think that about Peace, Love, and Understanding, and Peace, Love, and Understanding is probably one of the most covered songs out there. Lots of
Mm,
people have done Peace, Love, and Understanding.
it's true.
Yep.
No, but it's interesting when you said too, like a lot of people didn't know about the Mickey Mouse Club because, I mean, I'm in Canada. Um, the only way we could get the Mickey Mouse Club was on like a super cable package, which a lot of people, like you said, didn't really have access to.
Yeah.
So
Or you
that
had a
was,
big satellite dish in your backyard, which a lot of people,
yeah.
not a lot of people, but someone might have known someone on the block who had one of those huge satellite dishes that you
Hmm.
never see anymore. But I hear that a lot, and there were people in other countries who would get it as well from those satellite dishes.
Yeah. So it was an afterthought to think of Mickey Mouse Club for me because I discovered the party first. And I think it's because of your exposure in the teen magazines, like the Bops, Tiger Beat, all of that. And that's how
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I discovered you guys and picked it up from there.
Our social media.
Exactly. How did you guys enjoy and embrace doing the whole teen magazine photo shoots and interviews and such?
Um, I mean, it was all fun, but I'm sure there were times when that got real daunting, just because the
Yeah.
questions were always so like silly. What's your favorite color? What's your sign? What's your first, kiss? So a lot of times they would create a day for us to do those. So they'd be like, okay, you're gonna do 10 of them in a row. So they'd
Oh.
set up this room and we'd come in and do photos. So every hour, every new person to come in, we would do their photographer would come in, we'd do the photos, and you'd always see us like screwing off and being dumb, which worked for the party. But in another situation, it might be like, come on, guys, like you're screwing around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, we were kids. We had a lot of energy, and it was hard to keep us focused. We were kids. And then, but of course, answering those things. I mean, I read some of those things now, and I can tell I was being sarcastic on purpose just to see if they would print it. Uh, like for instance, I don't know how rated your podcast is,
Oh, you
but
can say whatever you want on here.
the, the there was one that said favorite song, and I put "Sexy Motherfucker" Prince,
Yes.
and they didn't even read it. They printed it in a teen magazine, and I was like, oh, oops,
I wonder
and
if they got
I
some
knew I was being.
angrily.
Someone had to have caught it, but I mean, I know, I remember reading it and going, oh my God, I knew that I wrote that just to be obnoxious, just because I was like, let's see if there's no way they're going to print this, and you just start firing them off. You said, and you're like, and then you start thinking, well, I've answered 7 of these in a row. I can't answer them all the same. So you start like getting creative and messing around. So I hope anybody who ever read those never got too upset at us and just realized we were probably a little overworked that day or tired or, just being kids. I mean, at the end of the day, we could have gotten in some serious trouble touring the world and being teenagers, and but we did pretty good. We didn't get too crazy. we kept it kind of in that realm. You know what I mean? It was pretty innocent.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder what it would have been like for you guys if social media had existed in the
You
form it
kidding?
is
We'd be
now.
arrested. We'd have been in jail. No, I mean, we talk about that all the time. It's like the amount of assets we'd have if we would have had a cell phone camera, just walking around Tokyo or, Indonesia or, just some of the places we found ourselves and stuck at or ended up at, or, there's many times we got surrounded by fans or stuck in a situation. One time in Canada, at the Toronto Mall. I don't know if you were there or happened to know that situation, but it was during the Kuwaiti War, and we came into Canada. We played the mall, and we shouldn't have been playing the mall. We were too popular for that venue. But of course, you're backstage like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We got all the cops. We're gonna line you up. We're gonna bring you in. We're gonna do. And you're like, okay, cool. You obviously got it under control. We walk out there within 45 seconds. The aisle shut, so we had no way back to where we had come from. We were kind of stuck in the middle of the mall.
Wow.
And everyone just started like closing in. Like people were pushing and getting close. They were closing in on the stage. So they surrounded us and had us like, they got us down on our knees, and they had us like they duck and cover kind of.
Yeah.
And there's like three rows of mall. So the next layer of malls up there, and these people look like they're getting ready to jump because they're getting pushed towards like those railings. Music stopped within 45 seconds, and the concert stopped, and all of a sudden the SWAT team comes in. Your SWAT team. I don't know what you call them there in Canada, like what if they have a certain name.
SWAT
but
team.
the shields, the riot helmets, the whole bit coming in basically to clear out like preteen like kids. You know what I mean? Not even teenagers, like kids and
That's like
Disney
new kids
fans.
level.
And it was nuts, and it actually kind of it kind of cemented our spot there in Canada, because every time we came back, it was always talked about. And the next day on the cover was like a Beatlemania kind of thing, even though we were in the middle of a war. The front cover was this situation, so it was always pretty wild. But we were always like, we'll be back. But the remainder of our concert was backstage talking to people who had broken ribs or who had gotten hurt, because so many people got smashed in this concert. So the ambulances were there, and it was a mess. But we came back and ended up playing. I'm drawing a blank now. I should be shot for this. Wonderland.
Canada's Wonderland. Yeah.
Thank you. Ding ding ding. Got it. So we came back and played Wonderland, and we're like, we're back. Tarzan Dan brought us out. And,
I love him.
And it was a blast. Yeah, we were breaking volume records, and we were having everybody stomp their feet. And, so we redeemed ourselves. But Canada was one. That happened in Asia a couple times where we got surrounded. They were rocking the van. And it happened in Korea. And when you're a kid, that's exciting. It was kind of exciting. We're like, whoa, yeah, the fans are rocking our band. This is nuts. This is great. What are we gonna do? But at the same time, we're not recognizing where we are. We're not in America. Okay, so out of nowhere, military vehicles show up and literally start hitting people with the butts of their gun. Blocking people off the van, getting people off the van.
Oh.
And it became, all of a sudden, then it became like from excitement to like, oh my God, this is into tears. You know what I mean? Like, we got to get out of here. This is scary. And they ushered us out, even to the point where when we left in the hotel, when we left the airport, we were rushing in the airport, and there were fans at the airport, so they were rushing us in the airport. And there's military in those countries in the airports, and a lot of times these guys they look like they're 17 years old. Sometimes, you know, a lot of times these guys don't look like they're, you know, a big manly, guy. So I remember this very vividly. We had our parents weren't there, which they usually were a lot of times, and we had one guy watching out for 5 kids, you know, and he was our tour manager, and he's holding the door. Get in. And Dee Dee was the last one. And because Dee Dee was the last one, they thought she was a local. The military guy thought she was a local. So the military guy blocks her and pushes her in the face, you know, pushes her with his gun. He pushes her back, and doesn't hit her, but like, you know, shoves her back, you know, no entrance, you know, no. And our tour manager grabs the guy's gun and goes, no. And I'm like, all right, we're all dead. We're gonna get shot. You know, but the guy realized, this military guy realized he messed up and let him in. But, you know, just situations where you find yourself in like that. Like, again, if we had a cell phone, or if we had a means of documenting things and writing those things down, or posting our experiences, I mean, I can't imagine. That'd be so fun to revisit and look back on and go through. You know, I have to dig pretty deep to find any pictures of those times.
Do you have any of like the recordings?
Tiffany's mom,
like the videos and stuff from
some actually. Yeah, I actually just found a CD of us in Japan, and because we were always being photographed, and because we were always doing stuff, it's funny, you know, when you're a kid, and maybe all kids are like this. You know, when a mom or somebody comes around with a camera and they pose, we're always like, you know, come on, get out of here. You know, and now I'm wishing so much that we would have been more like about it, you know.
Yeah.
Tiffany's mom was that girl, that mom that was always there with the camera, was always, and she'd be like smiling and be like, oh, come on, Nancy, leave us alone. But now I cherish this stuff. You know, I'm all the stuff I have is because she shot it, you know. So I'm so thankful. I've even told her so many times. But I found one where she had given the camera to Tiffany, and so Tiffany was like, had the camera. So Tiffany's like flipping the camera back and forth, and we're on an airplane. So we're just screwing around on an airplane. You can only imagine we're on an airplane for 12 hours at a time or something, you know, going overseas. You can only imagine what we're doing. We're writing songs in the bathroom. I mean, like, you know, just being kids, basically, you know, taking over aisles.
Yeah.
I think we had the Game Boys back then, or the little Nintendo Game Boys. There was nothing better than that at that point. It was pretty.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, if my kids saw that, they'd be like, "What is this?"
Yeah, I think the rest of it was consoles still.
Yeah.
That was the first portable and the only one at that time, I believe.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, most of it's all up here. But yeah, I sure wish we would have had cell phone cameras at the very least. That'd have been fun.
No kidding. And I want to offer my sincere condolences on the loss of Tiffany, because
Appreciate that.
Your dear friend and an incredible talent, and we loved her so much too as fans. So what can us fans do to honor her memory? Do you think we can?
Obviously, we have the GoFundMe up there.
Yeah.
We have the GoFundMe up there right now, which has been very helpful for her mom and her family. I think just you know, a big corner is turned just for the sheer fact that her mom is willing to talk about it, you know, and really wants to share the full story, which is something we've always wished we could do, but we wanted to honor her family the best we could, and we wanted to keep her safe. And because of social media, because of all those things, she wanted to stay private. She wanted to stay back behind the lights. But we were in contact with her. Things were sent to her. I think she did know that she had fans out there that loved her and cared about her. So that's all great stuff. But to your point, I mean, the NAMI, NAMI, I don't know how you say it exactly, but that's been a tremendous help to Nancy's family. It's a mental illness charity, and they help families. So if anybody's needing help like that or looking for assistance, that's the NAMI.com, I believe, or .org, would get you to a great place, you know, a great starting point. And I know that's what was helping Tiffany out. But yeah, I mean, she wasn't able to, you know, make a living or, do all the things that we know she was so great at doing, and I know a lot of fans felt robbed a lot and felt even angry that, they thought she had turned her back on them, but I know hopefully now they see that wasn't the case. So,
Mm.
yeah, you could imagine I've had some pretty crazy messages in my inbox from
Yeah.
people who just think like, well, how dare she? We spent our money on her CDs and we adored her, and now she's not even going to give us the time of day. And it was heartbreaking to know that we couldn't respond to that. It was just like, she's in a private. Sorry, you have to respect that.
Yeah.
So
It's her
yeah, it's
business.
been very tough. But this way, I think, again, I'm sure you might have even seen my message I put out the other day. But this is a conversation it's in the light right now. Timing is everything. You got tennis stars, you got Olympic stars, you got gymnasts, you got people finally talking about this kind of stuff.
Mm.
And the pressures and mental health is a very vague word. It's obviously encompasses so many different ailments, but just having that conversation is important. So, and I think, when she died, I think it was a big wake up call to a lot of us because we all feel like we're still kind of young. So that's one kick in the head. But now knowing a little bit more and knowing, about her diagnosis, I'm sure we have, and I know we have many fans who have the same ailments and have the same issues. So
Absolutely.
I hope they can find comfort in just sharing that with her.
Absolutely. And that's the thing too, is that regardless of what people may think of the situation when they're not involved, they don't really know. But I mean, you've got to take care of yourself first. You know.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah. Yeah, she was definitely missed at the time, and she's going to be missed. And I'm going to honor her legacy with this show as well.
Appreciate that.
Of course. Now I wanted to also ask you about what you were doing solo when you were doing your rock projects, like with your band Buzzfly and such. And now, or your interest more lying in pop or rock in general?
I'm just trying to keep it moving, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved writing. By doing different genres of music, you learn something new every time. So what I was doing, I enjoyed doing Buzzfly because my partner Mike Vizcarra is a rock and roll stud. So I really got to kind of live that out and experience that and play Rock and Roll Row there in California and play, Roxy and, Whiskey and all these awesome clubs that all the rock and roll people played. That was just something I've always wanted to do. And I felt like it really helped my songwriting, helped my knowledge of music, just in instrumentation, even behind the scenes. But I think I'm always trying to just do new stuff. I mean, I do hip hop stuff. When I came here to Boston, I fell into a hip hop crowd of guys who are really great hip hop artists here in town, and doing really well. And I've done vocals for them, and enjoyed it just as much. It's fun. So I really don't have a preference on my favorite kind of music, I guess. If I have a band, and then I want to do it's fun to do some rock and roll, but it's hard to do those songs. It's hard to even do pop songs when you don't have a band. It's just not as fun. It's like, you're missing such an integral part of that. Hip hop's easier to do with that, especially if you have a DJ or a mixer or some people who can bring some other elements to it. But yeah, I mean, Buzzflies, maybe we'll release some more stuff at some point. There's a lot of songs that need to be remixed and put back out, and it's just time.
What was one of your favorite of those tracks that you did with Buzzfly?
It's my favorite one is not out. I mean, it's not out there anymore. You would have had to have bought it, and it's
not even leaked onto YouTube.
I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think so. My buddy needs to remix the album, and we need to release it. It had a skull on it. I wish I had it here. I wish I had it sitting around here. I had a picture of it around here somewhere, and of course, it's not going to be close by. It has a skull on the front, and of course, my buddy Mark Warden took it from Moscow. He took a lot of our fun photos. But the skull, I actually brought back. I was on tour and bought it on tour. Brought it back off tour, but it's just a crazy story. But it's like it's carved, and it's like it's just nuts. It's this crazy antique thing. but yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of sound Eastern Indian-ish, a lot of the songs, but the song was called Bodhi Tree. So if anybody had that album that's listening, Bodhi Tree was the one of the main songs off there. Another song was Dig It, which was just a simple, fun song. But it has Pat Travers playing a lot of the guitar solo on there. He just walked in the studio one day and he was just like, "Hey guys, what's going on? I'm here. I'm in town." And I was like, "Hey bro, will you play a guitar solo for me?" And he's like, "I'll give you 2 takes." I'm like, "Done." Boom.
No way.
Both of them were like insane. So I was just like, "Done, done, done. Thank you. What do you need? Here's a drink. What am I getting you? I'm buying you a beer. What do you need?"
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
sweet.
just it's those kinds of experiences are so fun and organic, and of course when you listen to those songs, you remember those memories and even telling the story now. That's what's so great about Tiffini, even, because like when I hear the songs, I can remember where we were in so many different places. I can remember being on stage with her. I can remember doing the video in A&M Studios, which is the old Charlie Chaplin stage, which became the Muppet stage. It's like all these just crazy, crazy things just fly through my head when I hear those songs. So it's fun to know that. I said this on my post the other night. That we get, I'm sure, and everybody gets to do this in some way, but as a musician, as an artist, we get to leave things behind. We get to leave our feelings behind for when you're no longer here.
Yeah.
We still get to enjoy Queen even though Freddie Mercury's not here, and we get to sing at the top of our lungs in the shower, Bohemian Rhapsody. And it's fun for us, and we all have different experiences and memories when we hear those songs. Maybe where we were when we first heard it, but you can only imagine what the band actually thinks when they hear those songs. You know what I mean? Think about what Brian May thinks about when he's hearing the Freddie Mercury song. It's crazy.
All the
But yeah,
memories
that's
of
what
making
that's
that
what we're
music
going
happen.
through. Yeah, and I was talking to a lot of other guys, Chris Kirkpatrick and other guys from Linear. Even I was talking to Linear, Charlie from
Nice.
Linear, and because he called and he was sending me his condolences, and I'm just like, man, I've had people pass away in my life, but never a band member. Never someone who you've lived, who's almost like a visual representation of your life. You know what I mean? So it's like they can explain, because when you share so many things together, it's deep.
Yeah.
I've had relatives die, I've had grandmas die, I've had and it's just everything's it's all different. It all hurts. But
Right.
this is it's different. It's definitely different. So I was warning them. I'm like, yeah, get ready, because at some point this will happen to you too. It'll happen to us all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
wild though.
you guys, actually, the first time I started talking to you on Instagram about doing the show, you were getting ready for the reunion show in Orlando in September there. So how did it go? And are there going to be more of these?
I hope so. I mean, it was expensive to do. So
Yeah.
we obviously, when we wanted to do it, we wanted to do it right. So, and we didn't have a lot of time to get together, and we put a band together, and we had basically just hours of rehearsal before we walked up on stage, and haven't done something together. And some of those songs we actually never did on stage before.
Really?
Yeah, so that was kind of fun. So we were really pushing the limit of what we could do. But I think this happens to me on auditions and stuff. And I'll go on an audition, I'll work real hard, I'll go on an audition, and I'll come out of the audition and I'll be like, what the hell just happened? Like, where was the last 15 minutes? That's kind of how that show feels. It was just completely surreal, and I remember the parts that we did for Tiffini as well, because I kind of stopped in that moment and really sucked it in. But the responses from people have been incredible. People literally saying that was the best concert I've ever had in my life. I had the greatest experience of my life. There was a news, the Orlando is an Orlando family magazine. It's a big local family magazine. And I was just reading his letter again, because I have extra copies to bring to the other band members. And him and his wife were just like, it was so great to actually meet you in person this time. And this was the greatest concert we've ever been to date. I'm just thinking to myself, how did we do that? Like, what I mean? And it wasn't anything more special than, I think, just people hearing songs they never thought they'd hear again. I think that was just really the recipe of that, because there wasn't lasers and robots walking around. I mean, it was just us was just us, and of course having a band is always really awesome, and the band is great. We used this band called Epic Band, and they are the kind of the band of Disney. They do, like, if you ever go to Disney Springs or you go to Epcot, you see like the Great American Stage, and you see guys really rocking it out. A lot of times it's these guys. So they're so well rehearsed, they're so ready to go. And the singers are all the singers that sing the backgrounds and stuff, but those guys are incredible singers on their own merit. They could all be soloists. But yeah. So we were set up for success just on the fact that we had so many great people working with us.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's why I'm
But
hoping that you're
we can do
able
it
to do
again.
some more.
I hope
Yeah.
so. I hope so.
Yeah, the rest of the country would love to see it, I'm sure too.
We did film it, so I'm gonna have to get in there and actually just find the
good.
time to actually put some stuff together to put out. So we did film it, but again, we're trying to do so many things. We have 90s Con coming up here soon, so we're getting prepared for that.
Nice.
Yeah, gotta have merch made, and you gotta have all your ducks in a row.
I gotta get
Travel
myself some
plans.
party merch.
Hopefully we're gonna have some new stuff soon, so
That'd be cool.
that'd be good.
So any current projects that you're working on right now besides getting ready for the con and everything?
I mean, to your point, I'd like to, and we're trying to manifest, what you had just said, and that is kind of getting the ball rolling for more performances, or for opportunities to show up. A lot of times people won't just knock on your door and say, hey, I got this great idea. You have to, this is like with anything in life, you have to actually get out there and get your boots dirty, and put your money where your mouth is, and make an investment in yourself. And that's kind of what's been happening. We've been out there just going, you know what, if nobody's going to ask us to do it, we're just going to do it ourselves. And then sure enough, everybody shows up, and we had a great time. So thank goodness everyone showed up. Thank goodness, because as soon as we booked that show, everything was starting to lighten up. And then all of a sudden, COVID came back with a vengeance, and they started closing everything down again. So that venue, they cut the capacity on us so hard. I think that's like a 2,000 seater venue, and they would only let, at first it was like 300 something, and they ended up letting about 450 people, I think, in the door at the end of the day. But
so did everybody have to be like
felt
spaced
great.
out?
No, they had to be. It was kind of like at your, we had them spaced out. We actually put tables there so that people would feel obligated to be spaced out. But we kind of knew this would happen. I mean, imagine like New Kids on the Block walking on a stage and everybody going, now stay at your tables. It's not going to happen. Everyone's going to not that we're New Kids on the Block, but you know what I'm saying? People pay good money. They're like, you know what? I'm going up there and I'm catching a towel, or whatever. So it became fun, and nobody, I didn't hear of anybody getting sick. I didn't hear of any problems. Thank God, because that would have made me really bummed out. Because we did do like a meet and greet before, and we didn't want to set it up with like plastic and all this craziness, and everybody's wearing. So we had like how they have the pews in House of Blues, like church pews. So we had a church pew, so that the person who was taking the picture could sit down in the pew, and then we could stand behind the pew and kind of like lean over them, and we could get as close or stay as far away as we felt comfortable. And of course, we're all like, "Yeah, what's up?" Of course, we got went in. But, if someone would have had a problem with that, we could have just kind of backed up, and just been like, "Hey."
Whatever people are comfortable with. There you go.
Yeah, I didn't hear anybody complain. I didn't hear anybody have any special requests. I think they saw that we were trying our best to manage that, which was extremely difficult. There's so many moving parts because it changes all the time. 1 week we're fine, the next week they're like, we might have to shut the show down. And I'm like, guys, we have people coming in from LA and from different places. We can't. So we got it done, thank goodness.
Exactly.
So, and I do want to do it again. We had a great time. Just internally, for us to see each other is very healing. As brothers and sisters, it's just fun. It's like we just pick up where we left off every time.
Do you know what everyone's up to right now? I saw Dee Dee on Grey's Anatomy.
I think that was a while ago, but yeah.
It was a while ago, but that was the last time I remember seeing her and being so excited. I was like, I know her. Yes.
I don't know if she has anything coming up now. Of course, she's going to be at the 90s Con with us. but I don't know if anybody has. I don't know of any breaking news at this point to give you. I'm sorry.
That's all good. People can
As soon
always
as I
check
hang
them
up,
out.
I could get an email. I mean, you never know.
That's okay. I'll give some links out there to people so they can follow your guys' social media, and obviously like follow all of you on Instagram. So that's usually where I get the good stuff of what's happening. So
We're
what
trying
would
all
you
sorts of stuff. I mean, we definitely have some new merchandise we're working on, and we have a vodka that we've actually started getting into.
oh cool.
Getting that launched is actually incredibly hard. We have it. It's just, but
Yeah.
to get it in people's stores and to get it out there is extremely difficult. It's a whole game that we're
Wow.
learning as we go. It's interesting with distributors and, you know, laws of moving alcohol over state lines and different things. It's a wild thing, but you know, you see all these guys doing it, so it's like, why not? The party vodka, that makes sense,
It totally makes sense.
and it's good too.
Now
It's
that we're
really
all
good.
adults.
It's really good too. I'm like, let me taste this. I'm like, "Ugh." I was like, oh, this is great. Yes.
Excellent. We'll try to find it in Canada. That might be a chore. We'll
Oh
see.
well, yeah. Once we get it, everything, we're close. I mean, we actually have the bottles. We have it going, but we just have to do like kind of an official launch, so to speak,
Yeah,
and then you know put out the web page and information for it for everybody. But we're close.
that's awesome. Just a couple more questions before we wrap
Yeah,
things
yeah.
up.
Of course.
What would you tell 16-year-old Chase now as an adult? What would you tell him, the teenager?
Oh, what do you have listened?
Advice, you know? Yeah.
um, you know, I think we all had a pretty good head on our shoulders when we were kids. We had great parents, and that's definitely
Mhm.
the key to that. Um, what I would have definitely made myself understand is that you know your connections are everything in life. You know, and to manage relationships um, without needing something. Meaning to call people to check up on them, call people to say hi, call people to ask if they need anything. Don't
Mhm.
call someone when you need them, or just because you need them, because that'll always happen in life. You know, you all of a sudden you'll be like, oh my god, I just got a ticket. Oh my god, that one guy works at the courthouse. Maybe I can call him. He'll know what to do. You know, or I'm gonna need a lawyer. Oh, what lawyer do I need? Or I'm gonna need something. You know, all right, you need some
Right.
favor. I need to get in Disney. I hear that enough. There's people that call me
Jeez.
out of nowhere just ask that question. I'm like, where have you been last decade? You know, but
Yeah.
you'll always need something from your friends, and I wish I had traded more like business cards. I wish I'd put my hand out more and said, "Hi, I'm Chase. You know, what's your name?" I was a little more introverted and shy, and
Mhm.
I'm still kind of that way. I have to force myself out of that even still. But in those situations where you know I have Damon and Albert who have such explosive personalities, a lot of times I would just kind of just fall back to the back or shy back.
Hmm.
I wish I would have been a little more like out there and been like, "Hey, what's your name? What's you know, what's your connection? You know, give me your phone number." Because as as I moved to LA and I got into life, I realized that all those people that I probably met were doing the same thing, and they've only excelled and moved up in their positions. So a
Mhm.
guy that I might have met at a radio station that was a DJ might now be running the entire division at Atlantic, you know. But I never kept in touch, you know. I never it's that, you know. So
Yeah.
it's something that I, you know, when I work with kids and I mentor kids, I teach them a lot and I try to explain those situations about, you know, how to manage your relationships, and it's super important because you don't want that done to you. There's always that one guy who calls when they need something. And you're like, why did I answer?
That's really important for people to know. I'm glad that you mentioned that because sometimes we do that and we don't think about it, you know? Everybody gets wrapped up.
You have to consciously do it. What you should really do, and what I tell my kids, I say my kids, but like students that I have, is, you
Mm.
know, try to pick two or three a week, or at least two or three a month if you
Mm.
can, just to randomly reach out to. If you think about somebody, just reach out to them and just. We have so many ways of communicating. See, back then we didn't. I was introverted, so I didn't want to have a phone call. But now
Yeah.
I can text message somebody, and I don't have to have like a whole extensive conversation. I mean, say, hey man, just thinking about you. Hope you're doing okay. Done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've just done that. And then they were probably go, oh man, that's cool. Yeah, I wonder what you're up to. You know what? I was just thinking, I could use you on this job right now. You know what I mean? Like that,
Yeah.
and that. But if you never got to that point, you would have never gotten the opportunity. So those things happen a lot. And so many things are just so random in life, just by being in the right place at the right time. So
Mhm.
in that sense, that's what I would have told 16-year-old Chase
That's
for sure.
perfect. That's awesome. We always ask this at the end of an interview, and I wanted to ask you what kind of either a food, clothing item, toy, whatever you can think of makes you nostalgic for the 90s.
Oh wow, wow. I mean, music makes me nostalgic for the '90s, but
Mm.
if I just go home to my house, the whole anything in my room there is puts me there. I got metal hats. I mean, I can't even think. My head's flooded with all sorts of stuff.
Metal hats. Are you talking about the caps that had like the plates across the front? I've
Of
been looking
course,
for one, like the
Rhythm Nation
hardware.
had. Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of them have gotten ripped off over the years, or they've gotten. When I'd wear them on stage, if they came off, they get snatched pretty quick.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, the metal Rhythm Nation hat reminds me of the '90s all the time.
so sweet.
I'm trying to think of something more like cool though. Um, I mean, let's see what I got in my let's see what I got in my drawer here. Sure, I got something.
Yeah, take your time though. I
Oh
can
yes.
edit.
Now this would what I'd be. This is where I would go if I was to say one particular item that means a lot to me. That's from the '90s. I'd give you that. I'd give you that. Boom.
It's so cool.
Yep, I still got it.
That's
Sucker's been
amazing.
this sucker's been around the world a couple times.
No doubt. Oh, that'll be awesome. I'm gonna post that on my Instagram for everybody. Well, it's been like amazing talking to you. I'm a huge fan and can't wait to see you guys and what you're going to be doing next. So, and thank you for sharing about Tiffany and all your
Of
memories
course.
and experiences too, because we love her and we love you
Thanks.
guys all.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.